So, what does it take to completely shatter a person's entire worldview? Today, we're diving into this incredible story about a guy whose search for an adrenaline rush led him down a path he never, ever expected to take, from a life filled with doubt to one of just profound faith.
And it all starts with this question. This right here, born from a moment of just unbelievable pain and confusion, it's the question that kicked off this whole search for meaning. This is the raw, honest starting point for a journey that was about to change literally everything.
Okay, so this story begins with a man named Joseph from Wales. And to really get the faith he eventually found, you first have to understand the two worlds he was desperately trying to run away from. You see, Joseph felt completely trapped between two extremes. On one side, you've got his Catholic youth, which was filled with all these rules he couldn't question, leaving him feeling uninformed. So, naturally, he swung the other way, hard, chasing worldly success and adrenaline as an agnostic. But all the risks, all the thrills, you know what? They just left him feeling just as empty.
And for him, being an agnostic wasn't about rejecting God. It was really about a deep, profound sense of confusion. He had this feeling that there was something bigger out there, but he had absolutely no idea what it was. In his own words, he was just completely and utterly lost.
So this pursuit of danger, it really became his substitute for purpose. He just knew that life couldn't be about having a job you hate. So what did he do? He chased risk. He chased that high, looking for any feeling that would make sense of it all. But really, it was just a temporary fix for a much, much deeper problem.
And then came the moment that would literally shatter his world. It forced him to face the very questions he'd been running from his entire life.
Everything just went wrong in an instant. A split-second decision to go a little faster, a horrifying realization that it was too late, and then just a catastrophic impact. His leg was shattered and he was stranded, completely helpless, 2,000 meters up a mountain.
And in that moment of just absolute vulnerability, as the shock and the pain completely took over, all the pretense just fell away. This wasn't just physical agony. It was a total breakdown, a cry for help in the most basic human way you can possibly imagine.
But the aftermath of this accident is where the story takes a truly unexpected turn. He didn't go home to recover. Instead, he was pulled towards a place that made absolutely no logical sense to him or, frankly, anyone else.
It started with a simple piece of medical advice, just a practical suggestion for where to get the best surgery for his injuries. He had no way of knowing it at the time, of course, but this one little recommendation was the first step on an entirely different kind of journey.
And then, something really bizarre happened. While he's on the phone with his father, these words just came out of his mouth. He had never, ever seriously considered Islam in his life. He even said it with a sarcastic smile, like it was a joke. But the thought had been planted, almost as if by some force outside of himself.
I mean, just imagine his situation for a second. He sends his father home and decides to stay in Istanbul alone. He's recovering from major surgery, he has almost no money, and he knows no one. He had absolutely no plan, just this powerful, undeniable feeling that he was exactly where he needed to be.
Lost, in pain, and running on pure intuition, he finally reached a point where he just had to ask for a sign, for any kind of answer at all.
So he was just trying to distract himself with the hobby, archery, but he gets completely turned around, totally lost. And as he's looking around, tired and in pain, he realizes he's just standing there in the garden of a mosque. And something just pulled him inside.
Standing there, right in the middle of the mosque, he offered this unbelievably raw and honest prayer. He didn't pretend to have any answers. He just admitted his total confusion about God, about his life, and about why on earth he was in Istanbul. He just asked for help.
And just moments, literally moments, after he made that desperate plea, he got a direct, literal answer. A woman just approaches him out of the blue and asks the one question that could change his entire life.
The contrast to his childhood was just staggering. In the church, his questions got him in trouble. But here, as a complete stranger in a mosque, his curiosity was welcomed with open arms. Every single question he had was finally met with an answer.
And that one single conversation gave him the logical framework and the spiritual fulfillment that he'd been searching for his whole life. The woman explained the 6 core tenets of Islamic faith. And for Joseph, who always felt his life was chaotic and just random, concepts like a single, all-knowing God and a belief in destiny,
Well, they provided a structure that just clicked. It wasn't just emotionally satisfying. To him, it was perfectly logical.
And since he agreed with all of the fundamentals, the next step was actually pretty simple. He recited the Shahada, the formal declaration of faith, and in that moment, Joseph became Yusuf.
You know, one of the first things Yusuf learned was that becoming a Muslim didn't mean he had to erase his identity as a Welshman. He was told, no, keep your culture. He learned that Islam actually embraces the diversity of its followers, a huge contrast to a common stereotype. And his newfound faith was tested almost immediately. With barely any money left to his name, he saw some starving cats and chose to spend what he had feeding them, putting his trust in the idea that God would provide. And then, when you know it, a friend arranges for him to receive a charitable donation that was exactly what he needed.
And this wasn't just a coincidence or a stroke of good luck. The money he received was zakat, a pillar of Islam. It was a structured system of faith in action, a direct reinforcement of this idea of divine providence that he had just put all his trust into.
Yusuf's journey, from a catastrophic accident to this profound spiritual awakening, it really leaves us with a powerful question. It challenges us to think about how our own moments of greatest struggle, our own breaking points, might actually hold the potential to become our greatest, most meaningful turning points.